Benedict starts his class. All right, please, Benedict. I will mute my mic now and it'll be over to you. Thank you very much. If you can.
All right. Thank you very much, boss. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So I would need you to also indicate if you can hear me. Just I can see someone, Chimezi. Just wave your hand like you were waving before. All right. Thank you very much. So with that indication, I'm going to assume everyone can hear me. Yeah. So Chimezi raised his hand before, so that's a very good way for us to start. All right. Okay. Thank you for all being here. Once again, my name is Benedict. I'm a front-end developer with Tavos Technology here in Lagos. So I've been using Angular for quite a bit, to say it, October 2018, and that's basically the only front-end framework I'm very, very good with, basically. So what else about me? I'm a Liverpool fan. I love food, and what else? And I watch a lot of TV series. So that's basically the long and short about me. So today we'll be talking about forms in Angular. So that's what I'll be talking to us about. It's just a fundamental introduction. And on this note, I would just like to go into the talk since we don't really have a lot of time. So is that fine, Sunny? Okay, I'll just go on then. All right, so I'm gonna be sharing my screen now. So if you can see my screen, please tell me. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chineze. I can see the hands. All right, so yeah, okay. So like I said earlier, I'll be talking about forms in Angular. It's just going to be a very introductory presentation, and I'm not gonna assume too much. Basically, I'll try not to assume too much. But I believe all of us being here currently, we know about generating a new Angular project and all of those things, right? We know that, right? Okay, so basically I'll just do a quick brief. As we all know, Angular is a front-end framework, basically used in with TypeScript, which is a superset of JavaScript. We know that. We've had different versions of Angular, right? We had Angular JS, which is regarded as Angular 1, right? That's in JavaScript. Then before we now had the whole transition into Angular 2 upwards, which is basically TypeScript, and which is what this talk is going to be written in. So to generate a new Angular project, I'm sure you know that ng new and all of those things. So you can also just go to angular.io if you need to find out more about Angular. So I'm just going to begin. Like I said earlier, we'll be talking about forms in Angular. So I've given a brief introduction about myself. I'm Benedict, like I said earlier. This is my GitHub repo link in case you're interested in checking out the kind of things I've worked on or built. That's also my Twitter handle at BEMMEE_. All right, so let's go all in then. So these are the things we'll be talking about. I'll just give a small definition about what we understand by forms. I'll also talk about forms in Angular. I'll give a quick dive into the approaches we have for creating forms in Angular. I'll also show us some code snippets, and then we'll do a quick summary. Then we'll ask questions. By the way, please, while I'm talking, if you do have any questions, please just drop them in the chat. It would be really nice to ask your questions along the way. So thank you very much. Thank you. Am I too fast, or you guys are following? It's fine. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. By the way, everyone, Chimezie is a very good indicator. So everybody, help me say thank you to Chimezie. It's been a very amazing guest. All right. So let's start with what are forms. Okay, so I went to Merriam-Webster. I believe we know Merriam-Webster. It's one of the formats of dictionaries we have. So according to Merriam-Webster, a form is actually a printed or typed document with blank spaces for insertion of required or requested information. I think that's a very simple definition, but what we are going to be dealing with is digital forms, basically online forms. So we can just transpose this into the kind of forms we are going to be working on. So think about spaces, blank spaces with labels this time, or no labels, or just placeholders. That is going to help us collect information from our users. Basically, that's basically what the form is. And also, we have forms in a lot of places, even in the unexpected places. If you are going to search on Google, whatever you are typing in is actually being typed in to a form. If you are going to go to a URL, just visit a web page or something, you are also typing in the URL into a form. If you are going to enter your registration, just enter your name or your surname, just register for something, maybe an email alert or something, you are also entering the information into a form. So we can see that forms are everywhere, basically. All right, so move on. So this is typically the kind of form we'll be building. Just a very simple one. Now, so a lot of people don't like talking about the other. I think they just regard the other type of form approach in Angular as the silent one. They basically like to talk about just one, which is the reactive form. But today I'll be telling us about the two different approaches we have to creating forms in Angular. The first one is the template-driven approach, while the second one is the reactive approach. A lot of people have more interest in using the reactive approach. They have their reasons, but I'll tell you one reason. Personally, I think is much more intelligent to use, but don't take my word for it. You have to really try both of them and pick your own poison, basically. Let me just use that word, pick your own poison. All right, so let's start first with the template-driven approach, or let's call it TD approach for short. So I'll just go back a bit. As the name implies, you basically start your implementation from the template. I believe we all know we have three files. Basically, when you have an Angular component, you have the HTML file, the TypeScript file, which is .cs file. Then you also have the CSS file. So basically, the work for your template-driven approach forms starts with your implementation in the HTML. So what happens there is that you basically just create a form in your HTML. But before you begin, let's just run through the steps that I prepared. You want to import the forms module into your app module or the feature module you are working on. So basically, some people like me, basically, if I'm working on a very large project, I like to have something called lazy loading. So that means I'll have different modules controlling the different parts of the application. So that's why I said feature module here. All right, so you want to import the forms module. So what that forms module helps you do is to import everything that has to do with the template-driven form into your components so that you'll be able to use basically the ng model directive. So you don't have red lines everywhere when you start creating your form. So after you've done that, which is the very first thing you do, the next thing you should do is to create the form markup. Now I'm going to be showing us now in snippets. The first step I mentioned is the importing the forms module. As we can see, the last item in the first screen, the first snippet is the forms module. It has been imported into the app module in this case. Now, let's go back a bit. Creating the form markup. Now, that's the second screen we can see here and the third screen. The second screen and the third screen. So basically, it was a project that was created using the Bootstrap front-end frame. We all know, we are familiar with Bootstrap, I presume. So that's why you have this form group and this class form control. So this is just the normal markup for creating a form, which is this number 2 here. Now, if we go back a bit, sorry. go back a bit. Number 3, it says add the ng model directive and the name attribute to your form. The name attribute is just an extra, but the most important thing here is the ng model directive. So what that helps you do is the ng model directives helps you identify that particular field as part of the form object that we are working to create, right? So that ng model, in this case, it takes what you have in the name attribute, right? So meaning for that particular input, which is the first one, the item that is typed into that form input, let's say I type in my name now, Benedict. When we log out or get the object, the form object, that particular name attribute is going to take on the name that was typed into it. Basically, that's Benedict. The next field, as we can see, is the email field. So that ng model just helps us to take the particular item typed into that input. That's the importance of the ng model directive in this case. Now, there are different ways to use this ng model directive. Like I said earlier, this is just a basic approach, basically. Now, the next step, the next step is number 4, which is in the opening form tag, assign the form reference to an ng form value. So what that means, what the number 4 is trying to tell us is, we are going to have this. Can we see the number 4 snippet? The number 4 snippet. Chimezie, please just wave your hand if you can see the number 4 snippet. All right. So in the number 4 snippet, as we can see, we are calling this form, the feedback form. That's why we have that local variable, which is feedback, the hash, then feedback. That's how you create local variables. I presume that some of us have used local variables before. Now we are assigning it to the ng form value. Now that ng form is what takes all of our form, creates a form object for us. Does that make sense? It takes all of our form and creates the form object for us. Now the next thing for us is the number 5. Number 5 says assign the ng submit event to the method to be created in your .ts file to submit the form. Right. What that means for us is we have a method that is to be created in the .ts file. If you go with me now to the number 4 step here, number 6 snippet here, you see the submit feedback method that has been created for us in the .ts file, right? I created that method. That method now is just logging the values of our feedback form inside of the console. You can also see the submit feedback method is collecting a parameter, or rather you call it an argument, and is that ng form that we've assigned to the local variable in the form earlier. So it's collecting the form values and giving it the title feedback, right? Collecting all of the form values and giving it that title feedback. So that's why we have in the component, we are logging the values from that particular form. As you remember, when you log a form object in the console, there is one of the attributes or one of the properties of the form called the value property. So that's why we are logging out the value property of the feedback. Right. So if you look at the next slide now, what you can see here, I typed in some values into the form, right? Typed in the name, typed in the email value, and also typed in just a small comment. And as we can see in the console, when you click this, hit the submit button, all of these things are logged out in the console, as we can see, right? Are we following so far? All right, thank you very much, Jose. So once again, I'll just run through everything I have said here. First things first, for a template-driven form, we import the forms module into our app module. The next thing is to create the form markup. And in creating the form markup, you also bring in the ng model directive. Now, if you don't take anything away from this TD approach that we have talked about so far, remember to always use the ng model attribute, because that directive rather, because that's what is going to help Angular understand, or rather to get the value of that particular field. Apart from the ng model directive, you also need the ng form, which is also another directive that you're assigning to the local variable. Now that local variable is our form object, right? So after that, you also create a method in your .ts file to get the values of your form. Now from here, you can do anything you want to do with that method. Maybe you are posting the values to an API. You can do all of that inside of this method, or you pass the values into another object where you can create another method, maybe a method that is communicating with your API to just get the form values. Anyhow you want to do it. But this is just the basics of creating a template-driven form in Angular. Now, do we have any questions so far? I would like you to just type them into the chat, uh, interface we have so far. Any questions so far? No questions. I would like us to just type in go on, or just somebody to just wait if I should just continue. Okay, I can see
Okay,
there is.
you can continue. Also, if you have any question, you can just click the raise your hands on your button, and
Yeah,
you can also type it in the message.
all right.
Benedict will get back to you.
All right.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thanks, Bearded Prince. Thank you very much, Lekon. Thanks. All right. Okay, so I'll just continue now. So the next one, as I mentioned earlier, the next one is the reactive form approach. Now, this reactive approach is a very interesting one. How it works, you basically start all of your implementation inside of the components, right? Inside of the components. If you remember, for template driven, we started with the template, but for this one, we are going to be starting with the components. All right. So as we started with the other one, sorry, forgive me. I just like the way I just listed all of these steps, so we'll be able to follow. I think the steps will help you to be able to follow through with everything I'm saying. So as we had in the first instance, we had number one. The first thing we have to do, Angular also provides a different module that takes charge of the reactive forms. So, and this one is called the Reactive Forms module. So you also import this module into the app module, or once again, your feature module, depends on the module you're working with. Now, after you've done that, excuse the number two, you can just create your form markup, but ideally, personally, I'll just start in the .ts file. Now, let's move on to number three. I'll just go on. So number one, which is what I mentioned, you import your Reactive Forms module. Now I'm using the app module. That's why you can also still see the Forms module here. You import the Reactive Forms module, as you can see here. Also import, bring it into your import array. Very important. Bring it into your import array. Same as the other guy, that's the Forms module. Now the next thing is the markup that was created, right? Which is the number two as mentioned before. The number three now is the component part. It's very important. The first thing I would do when I'm creating this is to create a form group, which once again, we give the name feedback, right? Now, I don't know, I use a lot of small linters and stuff, and then extensions in my VS Code. So whenever I'm typing this, I get small suggestions to import something and the other. So what I also do is just type feedback, I put in the colon, then I type form group, and automatically the form group is imported from Angular Forms library. The Forms library of the Angular whole framework is imported from it. Yeah. As you can see, you also have to import the form control, because each of your inputs has a property called the form control name. But before we get there, I'll show us as we move on. So the things you want to import the form group, also import the form control. Now, after the imports, the number 4 screen shows where you are assigning the feedback to the type of form group. The next part is that you want to create the form. This is where you are initializing the form. It's very important. Now, you might want to create this in a separate method. That's this number 5 and 6 screen. You might want to create it in a separate method, or you might just want to put it inside of your ng on init. But why it is inside the ng on init is that on initialization of that component, the component needs to know that it needs to create that form. That is why we have it inside of this ng on init method. I hope we get that part. All right, so I'm going to continue now. Now, the next thing we want to do is to create a new instance of the form group, right? Now, the form group takes an object. It takes an object as an argument. The first part is the different form controls we want to have in our form. That's the different inputs we want to have in our form. As we saw earlier, we have the name inputs, we have the email inputs. This is it. So we have the name, we have the email inputs, and we also have the text area, which is the comment form control, comment input rather. Now, I just set a few validators here. That's why we have these validators required. You can just create it ordinarily without any of these things. I just wanted to show us how to use the validators. Now, the next part is to create the method, which is number 7, this submit feedback method. This method helps you to just get the form values, basically, or to post the form values to an API. It depends on what you are working with. Now, let's go back to our notes. Now, the number 4, which is what I've shown us. Now we skip over to number 8. The template we have created already, which is the HTML file, we want to update it with the form control name directive basically, yeah. So what that means, what the number 8 means is quite simple. You just come back into your form, into your template. Now you add, it is very important to note this value that you have created inside of this form group object here, the name, email, and comments, they have to match the form control name that you are creating in your template. That is how you tie the object in your template, and the value for that particular input, that is how you tie it to the form objects that will be eventually created. So that's what this form control name attribute or directive stands for in this case. So like we have ng model for the template driven approach, we have the form control name for this approach. So after this is done for both the name, email, and the text area, we have already set up the method which helps us to get the values in the console. Now, this is the next part, which is the imputing your values into the form, the name, the email, and just a small text inside of the text area. Then you submit. When you submit, just like the previous one, we have the form values as expected from this method, basically. Right. So normally, I would have wanted to run this on my text editor and show us live, but I felt it would probably not be it would be unfair to just be skipping screens and whatnot. So after that, now I'll just run through all of this once again. Like I said earlier, we import the module, very expected. The next one is to create the form markup, or you can do that after you've created the form object in the .ts file. The next thing is to create the method that will help you to submit the form so that you can get the values in the console or do whatever you need to do with the form values. Also, after that, you have to update the HTML with the form control name. Once again, it's very important that your form control name matches the form control that you have set in the component. Now, some people want to use form builder and whatnot. Form builder is just a way that helps you to work with the forms in a much more robust way. Like if you have a very good thing you can do when you are using the form builder, if you have external validators, like maybe you want to compare the values from two fields, right? You can also use the form builder instead of using just the form builder. All right, so I think I'm done with the presentation. Oh yeah, so all of these screens just show what exactly happens in the form. Like I mentioned before, ng model is very important. That's why we use the ng model directive. For the next one, I'm seeing your messages, Sunny. The next one is also the form control name, which is very important, like I mentioned earlier. So I would like to take your questions now because we are running out of time. Guys, thank you very much.
Just like to quickly mention that Zoom is alarming,
No,
but the
no
thing is,
problem, no problem.
we will go, if whatever happen, just some viewers
Yeah, we
or
can reload the page. I got that.
also we can also share the link again and you come back. If you miss the question, we can continue from there.
No
But
problem. So,
quickly make your
yeah,
question.
I would like to take our questions now.
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
Benedict
no
for that.
problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Benedict. It's really straight to the point summary so far. If you have any question, please, I will let the mic go now so you can ask your questions.
All right, please ask your questions. Please ask your questions.
Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, we can hear
Okay.
you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Lekon.
How you doing?
I'm
Okay,
very well, thank you.
my question, according to this guy, he's also one of Angular. I do watch his tutorial very well, Gary Simon.
Okay.
He do prefer using form builders. Then you bind it,
Yeah,
you match it to the form group, which he has given the name at the HTML
yeah.
markup. So,
Yeah.
uh, but
You,
when he uses it, it's not probably in a much more robust, probably in a small form like that. Probably you are building a contact form that just need probably 3 fields. So
yeah.
what do you say to such situation? Like you said in your presentation, you said you majorly use the form builder when you are building robust application, but a contact form is just something small. So why still use the form builder there?
Okay, so, my check, can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you can actually use, sorry I just said what I said like that way. But you can actually use the form builder for whatever size of form you are using, or rather you are trying to
Okay,
work with. You can use it
okay,
with whatever type of form you're trying to work with. But what I was trying to say is the instances where I use it. That's what I was trying to talk
okay,
about. But you can use
okay,
the form builder. It's quite very useful as well.
okay.
So
Oh,
don't,
thanks,
yeah.
thanks. Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
I was actually going to show how to use it, but since I don't want to start swiping back and forth.
Okay.
Does anybody have
Thank.
any other question? No problem. Any other question? So to just extend a bit on that form view that you just mentioned. Now the way you use it, if you are going to use a service inside of your component, you remember that you have to introduce it in your constructor, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's that form builder now. You have to first of all import it, right?
Yes,
Normally.
yes.
After importing it,
Hmm?
you now go into your constructor and you try to, I'm coming, okay, and you just
Give it
like
a
give it a, yeah, you understand what I'm trying to
private or
say?
public class.
Exactly. Give it a private or public name or variable, basically. Then after you do that, the next thing you now go into where you have that new form group as you
Mm-hmm.
have inside of that place there. The next thing you want to do
Mm-hmm.
is that you now call that your class. Sorry, if I can share screen again, I just stopped
Okay, you
sharing
can do
screen.
that.
Yeah, let me quickly share my editor. Can you guys see my editor? I believe this time will run out. Can you guys see my
I can.
editor?
Yes, I can
All
see.
right. So I'm going to start from the beginning again. So this is what we had before, right?
Yes, for the
I'm
form
going to
group.
zoom. Yeah, this is this is our reactive approach. Let's remember, this is the reactive approach,
Okay,
right?
okay, 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 okay.
Now, so what I did first now, I just initialized this guy here. I created the private
Okay.
FB equal to form builder. And as you can see, I've imported form builder here, right? So if you are going to use
Yes.
this guy, if you are going to use the form builder, let me quickly just run through. I'm just going to do this dot, right? Feedback, right? Equal to this dot FB, which
Uh-huh.
is our instance of that guy. Then it
Form
comes
builder.
with, yeah, so dot group. You call the method group. Then you now bring back all of these guys, which is all of these methods, these form controls rather, right? Can we see what I'm
Yes.
doing? I just
Yes, we can see
copied
it.
that to just avoid too many typing. Since so do you see that? Now, but in this case, one thing I would like to mention is if you are going to be using this guy, you can just do
Control.
an array instead.
Okay,
Can you see
that's
what I'm
yes,
doing?
yes, yes, yes. I can see.
Do you see that? So that's the way
Yeah.
this guy works.
Wow, that's good.
That's the way this guy works. So instead, you just bring an array instead. Do we see that?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to, sorry for that. All right. Do we see that?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So I'm going to save this guy now. I think that's all we need. Yeah, I'm going to save this guy now. Where's the console? Where's the terminal? Good. That's compiled. I'm gonna have to stop and share again so that we'll go into the browser.
So
Sorry
there
about
is
that.
while we head to the browser and also running down on time, there is a question
Yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah.
chat by Chimeze.
Go
Which
on.
which approach will you recommend?
All right. So it depends on what you want to do. If it's something quite simple, you can just use the template driven. But to have more undo, to have more control, right? I'll suggest you just use the reactive form. So to answer your question, I think Chimezie, just use the reactive form. A lot of people will tell you to just use the reactive form. So we can see our terminal. Okay, yeah. I'm going to share screen again before our time runs out. Good.
It's okay. We can always
Yeah,
see
no
what we
problem. All right, so I'm running the project already on port 200 as you can see. If we go into the reactive form, we can see we do not have any error in our console, right? You can see the console, right? All right, so if we type in as usual, that's my full name. That's my mail. Hello, everyone. So
So we
now,
we're
yeah.
using this time to say thank you very much because okay,
All right.
our time is
Yeah.
really
So
bound.
that's basically it. So we can see
Thank
all
you.
of that, right? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So
It
thank you
was
very much.
it was really nice having you. It was so interesting. Thank you very much. And if you have any
Thank you
question, you
very
can
much.
reach Benedict. He will share his Twitter and
Yeah.
so you can always reach him. And we'll be making this available on YouTube so that we can always get back to it and learn more because this is an awesome content. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank
The
you
time
very
is
Thank
much.
you.
really
Thank you
before they
so
kick us
much for
out.
having
I'm
me.
going to end the meeting.
All
Thank you,
right.
guys.
Thank you.
We'll do
Thank
this
you,
another time.
Lekon. Thank you,
We would
Chimezi.
really love
Thank you
to have
very
you
much.
back here again, Benedict.
I would love to honor the invitation. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Azali, what's up?